Hello and welcome to WNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Liverpool transfer news as Marc Guehi wants move and Parma happy with Giovani Leone deal. The transfer window may be approaching its final days, but Liverpool looks to be far from done, with two more signings seemingly in the pipeline. The Alexander Isak saga, of course, continues to rumble on, with the Newcastle striker seemingly trying all he can to force his way out of St. James's Park and head toward Anfield. But it's two defenders who look as though they could be the next additions to Arne Slot's defending Premier League champions, with deals being worked on for Marc Guehi and Giovani Leone. And it sounds as though the Reds are making good progress on both fronts. Marc Guehi, Crystal Palace. Marc Guehi has indicated he wants the move to Liverpool, according to The Athletic. The Reds, though, have not agreed personal terms with the defender yet, with discussions to be held with Crystal Palace first, out of respect for Steve Parish and the club. Although Palace has shown a willingness to sell Guehi, the club's manager, Oliver Glasner, wants Marc Guehi to stay at the club this season, even if it means him running down his contract, as per The Guardian's Ed Aarons. Furthermore, Guehi is said to be prepared to stay at Selhurst Park if Liverpool doesn't meet Palace's £54 million valuation. Should he become available for free next summer, Barcelona and Juventus would become interested. If Liverpool is targeting a move for Guehi now, rather than trying to get him for free next year, then that probably indicates the club knows it would have a battle on its hands in 12 months' time. It sounds like everything is set up for Guehi to make the move to Anfield before the transfer deadline. It will just be a case of Liverpool striking a deal with Palace, and based on what we've seen this summer, it should be able to talk the Eagles down on their valuation. Giovani Leone, Parma. Liverpool has made positive contact for Giovani Leone, according to Gianluca Di Marzio. The Reds are said to have held positive discussions, and the prospect of completing a deal with Parma is now a real possibility. The Italian side has set a price of $35 million plus bonuses, with Parma very happy to complete a deal with Liverpool. Getting both Guehi and Leone is the perfect bit of business from Liverpool. It's not waiting to be in a position where it needs to get in replacements for players. It's planning for the future ahead of time. At 18, Leone would have the perfect mentors in Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, and, fingers crossed, Guehi, and he will hopefully go on to become one of the Reds' stars of the future. News. Liverpool have just hinted when Alexander Isak saga could be resolved after opening transfer talks. Less than 48 hours after seeing Marc Guehi hold aloft the Community Shield at Wembley, Liverpool have made their move for the England international. The Reds have opened talks with Crystal Palace and are looking to snap up the centre-back in an initial $30 million deal. Should Liverpool be successful in their pursuit of the long-time target, he will arrive for the exact same overall $35 million fee the Reds commanded when selling Jarell Quansah to Bayer Leverkusen earlier this summer. The 25-year-old is braced to become Liverpool's 9th signing of the summer and take their overall spending beyond the $300 million mark. However, they are yet to discuss personal terms with the defender, though he is understood to be keen on making the move to Anfield, with Reds bosses holding club-to-club talks with Palace first out of respect for the relationship between the two clubs, particularly the long-standing relationship between Liverpool's football leadership team and Eagles owner Steve Parish. The Reds have been in the market for a new centre-back for a number of years, only to be left disappointed in the pursuits of Levi Colwill, Lenny Yoro, and Dean Huijsen. While they still wish to add a highly rated young centre-back to their ranks, as they firm up interest in Parma centre-back Giovani Leone, Guehi's expiring contract status has presented a market opportunity that Liverpool, ever the transfer opportunists, could not pass up. Palace rejected 4 bids from Newcastle United last summer for Guehi, with the latest worth up to $65 million, while Tottenham Hotspur had a $70 million approach rejected back in January. Considering the Eagles had reportedly wanted more than $40 million to sell the center back this summer as he prepared to enter the final 12 months of his contract, for the Reds to negotiate a deal below such a fee is certainly something of a transfer coup. Palace had appeared to be reluctant sellers all summer long, even taking into consideration the fact that Guehi had shown no inclination of negotiating a new deal. Consequently, while Liverpool's interest in the England international had been well documented, it was also clear that Eagles would have to soften their stance and lower their demands if the Reds were to make their move this summer, as opposed to moving for Guehi on a free transfer in 2026. Admittedly, the softening of such stance was made public by Palace owner Steve Parish at Wembley when celebrating his side's Community Shield win over Liverpool. Yes, of course. For players of that caliber to leave on a free, it is a problem for a football club, Parish said. There is no doubt about it, unfortunately. Joachim Andersen went last summer to Fulham, and we couldn't afford to lose both of them, Andersen and Guehi. We then had another bid in January, but that was a difficult situation as well. We will just have to see what happens. It needs a new contract or a conclusion of some kind. We will have to see. We will do whatever we can. We won't stop working. But as far as people being here or not being here, it depends. If it is the right decision for the football club and for them, there will be changes. But we have got to make smart ones. With Parish leaving the door open for a Guehi exit from Selhurst Park, it has not taken long for Liverpool to make their move. Given that Virgil van Dijk went viral for the knowing look he made to camera in the Wembley tunnel when spotting Arne Slot embracing Guehi, perhaps we should not be surprised. It certainly will not be lost on onlookers how the Reds' move has come in the aftermath of facing Crystal Palace at Wembley. Only club bosses on both sides will know how much the prospect of the current Eagles captain facing his former side in the Community Shield played with regards to the timing of these accelerated transfer talks. While Guehi's future has been a long-running transfer saga, it has proven to be a relatively tidy episode. The centre-back has captained Palace to FA Cup and Community Shield glory in recent months, after all, as well as a 12th-place Premier League finish and European qualification. Should he indeed complete a switch to Liverpool, he will depart with Eagles' well wishes, especially given his touted transfer fee would be roughly double what Palace paid Chelsea for him 4 years ago, as opposed to the would-be Bosman exit if he had seen out his contract. The resolution of his future then will come in stark contrast to that of fellow Reds transfer target Alexander Isak. The Swede is currently being made to train alone at Newcastle United, having skipped their entire preseason schedule. Reports on Tuesday claimed he had told the Magpies he has no intention of playing for the club again, as he continues to hold out for a move to Liverpool. Isak reportedly told Newcastle of his desire to move on both before the end of last season and following the Magpies' final game of the season against Everton. Having not been handed a new contract earlier in the campaign despite previous promises, he had no desire to belatedly sign an extension. With Newcastle struggling to recruit attacking reinforcements so far this summer, supporters have turned on Isak for how he is handling his situation. But with Liverpool continuing to monitor developments, having not made a fresh move for the striker since their initial $110 million offer was rejected earlier this month, this is a saga that looks set to rumble on during the final weeks of the transfer window. It's understood that Reds bosses considered it futile to return with an improved offer, given the swiftness and clarity of Newcastle's rejection. Should the Magpies' stance soften, they will reassess their own position. Meanwhile, Liverpool are openly in the market for a new forward after selling Darwin Núñez to Al Hilal for a deal worth up to $56 million, but only if key criteria are met. It's understood that this would include, but not be restricted to the desired player being of sufficient quality to start for Slot's men, represent fair market value, and be realistically attainable if the Reds were to bolster their ranks. Isak would evidently be of sufficient quality to start, but Newcastle's own position would ultimately determine if the Swede represents fair market value and would be realistically attainable. With the Magpies initially demanding 150 members, such boxes would go unticked. But if they were to show willingness to negotiate for what would still be a British record transfer deal, you would expect Isak to get his desired move to Anfield. But he might have to wait a little while longer yet. With the Premier League campaign set to get underway on Friday, 15th August, Liverpool travel to Newcastle for their second outing on Monday, 25th August. Consequently, the Reds' move for Guehi, coming in the aftermath of the Community Shield showdown with Crystal Palace, could be a hint of things to come between Liverpool and Newcastle, and how the Isak saga could still be resolved. The Reds waited until after an in-transfer window meeting with Palace to make their move for Guehi, with speculation over his future in the interim appearing to be far more amicable. With Newcastle fighting a losing battle to retain Isak's services, Liverpool might have to wait until after their trip to St. James's Park later this month for the Magpies to show a greater willingness to sanction an exit. It will inevitably hurt Newcastle to wave off their star player, especially in such unceremonious circumstances. But they would at least be safe in the knowledge that they had avoided a hostile early reunion and opportunity for Isak to come back to bite their hand in the process. Third news. Liverpool can take leaf out of Arsenal book to negotiate tricky 34 million transfer. Liverpool could look to strike a cut-price deal for Giovani Leone as part of their spending spree. Arne Slot's side have splashed the cash on a host of new signings over the past few months, and the higher powers at the club have now turned their attention to bringing in defensive reinforcements. The Reds have already shaken up their back line, with the additions of Jeremy Frimpong and Milos Kerkez, but at least one more centre-back is expected to arrive on Merseyside before the transfer window slams shut. Several options are being considered at Anfield, with Crystal Palace's Marc Guehi identified as a top target. The England international has entered the final 12 months of his contract at Selhurst Park, and although he is happy to play out his deal, The Athletic report that the Reds have stepped up their pursuit and opened talks with Palace over a deal. For their skipper, Guehi would arrive at Liverpool to battle it out with Ibrahima Konate for a starting spot alongside Virgil van Dijk, with Joe Gomez falling down the pecking order and slotting in as fourth choice behind the aforementioned trio. Parma's Leone is also very highly regarded by the Reds, and a move is being considered for the teenage defender, and thus there is a world in which Guehi and the 18-year-old complete moves to the Premier League title holders. However, Liverpool could look to take a leaf out of Arsenal's book by trying to negotiate a deal with Parma, which would see Leone loaned back to the Italian outfit. With 4 centre-backs, if Guehi arrives, on their books, and Wataru Endo capable as a makeshift defender, the Reds may not be in any immediate need to integrate Leone into their ranks. Arsenal deployed a similar negotiating tactic when signing William Saliba from Saint-Étienne in 2019, with a loan deal back to the French side, allowing them to reduce the fees involved in the transfer and also ensure the defender's progress could continue to accelerate. If Liverpool were able to replicate the style of deal, Parma may be more obliged on their $34 million asking price for Leone, and it would also give them a greater reason to sell to the Reds, given that top clubs around Europe also have the teenage sensation on their radar as well. Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.